Happening now a lot is drug driving. And that's where people have had something, we'll say, on a Saturday night, and they're stopped at one of these mandatory checkpoints 3 days later, even a week later. They have to give a sample of the saliva. The saliva is then put into a machine which tests for up to 8 or 9 different drugs, cannabis, benzodiazepines, amphetamines, methamphetamines, ketamine, all that sort of stuff, and cocaine. And if that sample of saliva shows up the presence of any one of those things, you're going to be arrested right there and then. Then you're brought to the station, and a sample of blood is taken from you. And if it subsequently shows up in the analysis from the Medical Bureau of Road Safety, you could be facing a year off the road. One of the major ways now that people are being stopped for drink or drug driving is what's known as a mandatory intoxilizer checkpoint. And these things are set up at specific places, at specific times, on specific dates. Guards are given permission in writing from an inspector, and the inspector will say that on this date, in this place, between the hours of 3 p.m. and 5 p.m. or whatever it is, I want a checkpoint set up. And so once they have that authorization from an inspector to set up a checkpoint, they're authorized to stop and get anybody to give a sample of their saliva, whether or not they think that person is intoxicated or otherwise. You could be perfectly fine, but they can ask you to provide a specimen of your saliva using a device that they give you, and you must provide it. People don't realize that cannabis will stay in your system for a long time. So you could be potentially prosecuted and convicted for something today that you did 2 weeks earlier. And it's not acting on your system in any bad way. You're not obviously intoxicated. You were at the time, but not 2 weeks later. But you could be put off the road for that thing.
So you could smoke a joint on a Saturday night and the following Thursday?
Yes. Yeah, the following Thursday, there's no way that the cannabis joint is still acting on your central nervous system and making you intoxicated in any way. You're fine at some point the next day or the day after that. You're perfectly, you have all the outward appearances of being sober. But if you're stopped at a checkpoint and they do a saliva test and it shows up, you will be prosecuted, and you could end up being put off the road for a year for that. So things that happened 2 weeks ago could come back to haunt you.
What are the punishments for drug driving?
It's the same as drink driving. The limits are set. You're allowed to have a kind of minute amount of substances in your system, but it's set at such a low level. It just about gets past the reality that you might have had in your system due to passive inhalation because somebody next to you was smoking. So there is a level, but once you exceed that level, then it's a straightforward 12-month ban. Once you exceed a limit for these substances, you are facing a disqualification. It's usually capped at 1 year. You know, it's a 1-year ban for that. Drink driving is kind of graded depending on levels, but in drug driving at the moment, it's 12 months.